across the league. Expectations rising rapidly in New York as John Harbaugh has taken control of the Giants. Should Big Blue fans have high hopes for year one? Plus, the Texans have done some big spending to keep their defense together. But what about the other side of the ball? Is a new contract coming for C.J. Stroud? And we're looking west. We have every NFL Nation team reporter from the AFC and NFC West here in studio for the latest on two of the toughest divisions in the NFL. NFL Live off and running on this Tuesday, joined by Peter Schrager, Tim Hasselbeck, and ESPN NFL Nation Giants reporter Jordan Raanan, because Giants made some news today, earlier this afternoon. New on NFL Live, this from our Jeremy Fowler. Giants and defensive tackle DJ Reader closing in on a deal. 10-year veteran brings immediate help to New York's front. So, Jordan, why'd they do it?
Well, the Giants allowed 5.3 yards per carry last year. That was dead last in the NFL, right? And now you're talking about, even before they traded Dexter Lawrence, they said that they needed to add to that position. So then they trade Dexter Lawrence, and not only did the Giants sign Shelby Harris, the defensive lineman, Leki Fatu, another nose tackle, now they also add DJ Reader to the mix to help that run defense. And I'll tell you this about DJ Reader, right? There was one player that averaged, had a double team at a higher percentage than Dexter Lawrence last year. And I had a source tell me DJ Reader can still handle the double team. It was DJ Reader who had double teams and is still able to help against the run. He's getting up there in his age. He's over 30, but he's still an asset for them against the run.
Yeah, obviously a lot of changes up front for the Giants, but the biggest change is Harbaugh coming in as the head coach. So, like, what's the buzz around the team? How does it feel around the facility with Harbaugh running the show?
I spoke to a couple players about this, and they feel like it's a fresh start, right? And yes, John Harbaugh is known as a hard coach. He's going to work them hard. But you're willing to accept that when the results haven't been good the other way around. And John Harbaugh has been honest about his expectations coming in. He's not like, okay, we're going to build up this program. This is a multi-year build. When he first came in, he said, we're going to be trying to make the playoffs this year. Like, that was an expectation for him. He said, we're not going out there to lose games. Our goal is to win games. And look, they have operated this offseason and added pieces and made that roster look like a John Harbaugh type roster. Look at the draft. You're talking about a massive right guard. He's going to play right guard, Francis Maui Noah. You're talking about linebacker / edge rusher who said he plays violent, right? You're adding a sixth round, a defensive tackle. You're adding big players all around. It has the shape of John Harbaugh, and he expects us to be a good team right away. And you know what helps? When you have that second-year quarterback, that young quarterback who you think is good.
Jackson Dart, who showed a lot of promise as a rookie. Tim, what are your expectations for Harbaugh's first year in New York?
I think they'll be an improved team. Part of the reason they'll be an improved team will be the second year for a quarterback who I think, will show good progress. And I also do think that Harbaugh, like a lot of coaches that have experienced success in the NFL with a prior organization, I think they'll try to, mimic that blueprint. And so, Jordan's referencing, some of the initial moves that, they're making under Harbaugh's leadership. Obviously, big guys in the front on both sides of the ball. You think of his time in Baltimore, certainly they were a team that played great defense. They ran the football, and, they had a quarterback that always had an added element, and so when it was Flacco, it was his ability to push the ball down the field. With Lamar, it was obviously an added element as a runner, and I think with Dart, there's kind of a combination of both of those things. So I think it'll take a little bit of time, but ultimately, I think that will end up being the vision for Harbaugh.
Yeah, and Tim, I'm fascinated by the brain trust that is going into this offense. And Jordan and Dan, you guys can speak to it as well. But it's not, here's a John Harbaugh offense, go, plug and play. It's Matt Nagy, who comes from Kansas City and, of course, has history as, the head coach of the Bears before that. It's Greg Roman, whose history and resume is quite decorated. It's Brian Callahan, who's been an NFL head coach, but also has worked with Matthew Stafford and Derek Carr and Peyton Manning in previous spots, and is the son of Bill Callahan, who's one of the great offensive line coaches in NFL history. So these are a lot of voices that are going to be playing a role in the formation of this offense. I don't know what it looks like. I also don't know what the running back situation is. I know they've got a bunch of guys that we think we like, but Jeremiah Love might have taken this to a different spot. They didn't draft a running back in the entire draft. Like, they don't have that guy either. So I know Scatterboo's coming back and Tyrone Tracy, and we got Motor Singletary and all these names, but before we just say 12 wins for the Giants, I want to see what the offense looks like, and that'll take form. And I also want to see what this running game looks like and how they perform with this great offensive line that they're now putting together.
Yeah, good point. It'll be interesting to see how it comes together with that sort of cocktail of high-ranking former head coaches on the offensive side of the ball. You got something real quick?
One more thing that John Harbaugh has harped on. They lost 5 games last season where they were up double-digit points. They lost all these close games. He thinks the margins are small. This team's closer than people thought. That's what they believe inside that building.
We'll get to find out together. Sticking in the NFC East, the Dallas Cowboys were focused on defense this offseason. 5 of their first 6 picks in the draft were on defense, starting with safety Caleb Downs, who they traded up 1 spot to get. They also landed Rashawn Gary and Kobe Durant during the free agency period. That defense will be led by new defensive coordinator Christian Parker, who comes over from the Eagles. Head coach Brian Schottenheimer was talking about his first-round draft pick, Caleb Downs, after rookie camp. Listen to what he had to say.
The person elite, the intelligence elite. It's cool for me on the field to watch the ability for him to be going in any direction and how quickly he can get into balance. Why that matters is it matters with the ability to tackle in open field space, make plays on the ball, in coverage, time up blitzes. He's just got incredible lower body athleticism that when you watch him, he always gets into that same position where he's ready to strike with same foot, same shoulder, whether it's left foot forward, right foot forward.
Peter, things needed to change on defense in Dallas, and they obviously have. Expectations always high there. Do you think they've made enough changes on the defensive side of the ball for them to live up to those expectations?
I know the documentary aired on ESPN, so it looks like I'm doing this for Mickey Mouse, but I don't know, that the pick is in, the documentary that got us inside the draft war room was outstanding. It was exquisite, and it gave us the conversations that not only Jerry Jones and Brian Schottenheimer are having, but Stephen Jones and Will McClay, and going into the maneuvering of the board to move back and then move up, and then what do we have to do to still get Caleb Downs? That was the player they circled, and they got him. And what a talent he is. You heard the word IQ. Talking to Cowboys sources, that's been the biggest thing that has stood out about Caleb Downs. We know about the physical presence. We know about the bloodlines. We know about what a talent he was at both Alabama and Ohio State. But in a first-year player, to be talked about as a coach on the field, then to mesh that with Christian Parker, who at 34 years old is the new defensive coordinator, who is a defensive backs guru who they plucked from Philadelphia, their arch rivals. I think that marriage is going to be maybe the most important thing for Dallas in this upcoming year. I've called them Super Bowl contenders, and Stephen A. Smith was laughing in my face at first take. But I will tell you, if they get the bare minimum out of those defense compared to what they got last year, and they just improve a little bit, they're Super Bowl contenders because that offense is high flying, and I think Caleb Downs and Christian Parker are the biggest additions to that team this offseason.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Peter. When you look at Downs, looks like he's going to be one of these guys that just can have an immediate impact. You hear Schottenheimer talking about, his ability and then where he'll end up playing in the defense. He's going to end up being around the football a lot. You think about Rashawn Gary and D. Winters. They've done a good job, I believe, of improving the talent at the position. And you go back a year ago, right before the season, you trade away your best player. That's hard for any defense. So I think that there's going to be a natural improvement based on the talent level and some of the changes. And then you referenced it as well. If they're going to be as good as I think most people believe that they will be on the offensive side of the ball, you're going to be able to play with a lead at times. You're going to be